Hello and welcome to a brand spanking new CraftySimulations video, the home of VFR flights with general aviation aircraft. Now, I have been known to do a few videos on the aircraft of which you see before you. This is the COWS Da-42 TwinStar, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't, it's not high on the list of my aircraft. In fact, to be honest with you, it's one of my favourite all-time aircraft here on the sim. But I haven't featured it in too many videos recently. That's because there's been some pretty damn good general aviation aircraft released as of recently, and due to my work, I just haven't had time to really jump back into this aircraft. However, a few days ago, I thought to myself, I did say ages ago I was going to put this aircraft, this particular aircraft, the leading edge aviation aircraft, through its paces by taking it through the Mach Loop. Which, if you don't know what the Mach Loop is in Wales, and it's where fast jets go through. Get some great photos. Just Google Mach Loop, it'll come up. And like I said, I was going to fly the Da-42 here through the Mach Loop. So I've actually got a flight plan somebody created in the past, and I flew this aircraft not on video. I haven't done a video for this, but I flew it from Oxford, which is the home airport of this leading edge aviation and the home airport of leading edge aviation, and I flew it from Oxford Airport to Welshpool, which is where this flight starts from, and it goes through the Mach Loop. Now, like I said, I haven't filmed this yet. It's all in the future. I've got to try it before I fly. Try it before I record it. Anyway, I'll cut a long story short. I was wondering, whilst I was flying about 6,000 feet, autopilot set, quite happy, and I was wondering about the update that COWS brought out for this aircraft a couple of months ago now, I'd imagine, and then took it away because it didn't reach their lofty standards. And I thought to myself, I wonder when the new update's going to come out. And literally landed at Welshpool, taxied, parked up, all the rest of it, turned the flight sim off, went onto YouTube. There's the update. Somebody's already done a video on it. So I quickly went on to Orbit Central. Lo and behold, I've got an update, and it is now version 1.1.1. And this is the changelog video for this aircraft. So you have the Da-42, this is what you're getting with the new version. And boy, is it a big version. It's a big update. I think COWS have thrown this one completely out of the ballpark with the additions of what they've done. I mean, previous updates have been small things, things that tweaking little things. We're going into some properly detailed parts of the Da-42, and like I said, this is what the video is. So we actually have different categories for the updates of this aircraft. So we have the flight models have been updated, systems have been updated, the power plants have been updated, we have an other section, we have the custom engine page, sounds have been updated, failures have now been updated as well, along with visual, and I think that's it. There's a boatload. This is going to take a long time to go through. So if you like your updates, this is going to be a whopper. And you like your Da-42, this is awesome. I haven't actually flown the aircraft yet with the new version, so I'm very interested to see. I've had a little tinker with it. I started a few systems up, and I did notice straight away there's a few big differences. So let's go straight into this with the flight model. Some would say the most important part of any flight sim aircraft. If you do hear a humming noise in the back of this video, it's because the fan's on, because it's blooming warm around here in the UK at the moment. So anyway, flight model. We have loosened up the flight model. Damping values and reactivity at speed have been reduced. Okay, so they've loosened the flight model. The flight model on this thing was quite, I wouldn't say it was vicious, but it was what I would expect from an aircraft like this. It's fast. It is very aerodynamic for an aircraft, so I expect it to be quite, it can handle, or, not be chucked around the sky, for instance, but it reacts very good to the controls you have. We have added deep stall flutter. I have no idea what deep stall flutter is. I know what a stall is, but it's obviously a type of stall that the aircraft can be put into, so I haven't actually stalled this aircraft on purpose. So that'll be interesting to see how the aircraft reacts in a stall environment. I'll have to look what a deep stall flutter is and see if I can try and replicate that. decreased the nose wheel steering angle. Previous turning radius can still be achieved with differential braking. So we've decreased the nose wheel steering angle. So if I can zoom in, it'd be lovely. There we go. Nose wheel. I think we have less of a steering angle on the nose wheel, and if you want to get really tight with your steering, you're going to have to use differential braking, which is perfectly fine. Obviously, you know, big airports, you're probably not going to notice it, but parking an aircraft up in a small space, you probably will notice it. Improved feathering in flight model. Okay, so if you feather the engines, there's going to be an improvement, apparently, of the flight model. Obviously, you feather an engine on a twin-engine aircraft like this. If you feather that engine, it becomes, you know, an aerodynamic block, for want of a better word. Air is supposed to hit the engine normal. If the engine's not running properly, you know, the model's been tweaked. We've reduced the max braking force. Okay, so this is again back to the wheel brakes. They've reduced the braking force. Added wheel drag, no more 40-knot idle taxi. So they've added wheel drag. I think this is in relation to the wheels in how they react to the ground. So they've added more drag, so the aircraft feels heavier whilst it's on the ground. You're probably going to need a bit more throttle to get this aircraft to move. Henceforth, there's going to be no more 40-knot idle taxi speeds, which I didn't really notice. I mean, I noticed you had to rev it up to get it going, and then you had to bring the throttles back quite quickly. It was a very low idle speed to keep the aircraft taxiing quite happy, but I wasn't standing on the brakes on my taxiing. Brake fade simulation. Right, so we're getting realistic now. Brakes will lose effectiveness and stick when hot. Okay, so this is probably more like a case on landing. You will jump onto your brakes as soon as all three wheels are on the ground. You are going to get brake fade. Okay, so even though you're pressing the brake button or brake lever or whatever it is you've got set up for your brakes, the brakes are not going to always work. They're going to lose effectiveness because they're going to fade. They get hot. Brakes don't work all the time. They don't work 100% all the time. So that's a realism part of it. They removed the leftover Sim Update 15 gear parameters. I don't know what exactly the gear parameters was, but they were for Sim Update 15, which has come out now, been updated, and Sim's working quite happy. But they've removed that. So, systems. Okay, so this is another now section. Added automatic localizer back course switching. This is where this avionics come into this, which is going to get confusing because I don't always use all this stuff. Alternate static simulation on standby instruments. Make sure all windows are closed. So this aircraft now, this simulated aircraft detects when the windows are open, and then has an alternate static simulation on standby instruments. This is getting very realistic now to what the real aircraft does. Corrected middle fuel tank chamber position. Okay, the aircraft has multiple fuel tanks. Apparently they've corrected the chamber position on the middle fuel tank. I don't know if it's the main tank, but it's the middle tank. We've added the emergency battery. Okay, so the aircraft has a battery, an alternator, all the rest of it. Obviously the engines aren't running and the alternator, the generators aren't running. The aircraft is not putting battery power back into, electricity back into the battery. So now we have an emergency battery. So I dare say this goes into the fault section because your main battery may fail, and now we have an emergency battery as a part of the equipment. Reduced chances of filter icing. Okay, so we're going into the icing section. The filters, they could ice up. We have a reduced chance of that now. So we have a power plant section. New engine compression simulation. Individual piston compression, blow-by, crankcase pressure, and combustion simulation. Oh, please don't make me pronounce that all over again. Jesus Christ. This thing's getting very, very realistic. I mean, simulators used to be, you know, FSX days and FS2004 days used to be, there's the engine, you know, it's our version of what the real aircraft does. Is it realistic? Probably not. Now we are doing compression simulation. It's getting realistic. Improved cooling system with heat soak I can't even say that word, and yeah, I ain't going to say that. Basically, temp changes are delayed as heat transfer occurs between components. Again, this just shows you what cows are doing. They have created a great aircraft in the Da-42 TwinStar, and now they've gone to the nth level of simulating every part of this aircraft. It just goes on and on. I'm not even anywhere near the finish of this particular part. Added airframe shake during startup, shutdown, ECU swaps, under boost situations, and severe engine damage. Okay, so we now have airframe shake. So the airframe, okay, so this is obviously the bits on the outside, the airframe, is now going to shake in certain circumstances. So again, it's making the thing more realistic. New turbo simulation. Again, these are turbocharged jet A1 powered, jet fuel, I should say, powered engines. Yeah, they are diesels. I'm sure they're diesels. And we've now got turbo simulation. We have a new fuel pressure simulation. Okay, slowed oil depriming. Okay, so we can, I don't know whether we can do depriming, but you don't prime these engines, but I'm guessing there's something to do with the engines, how they run. New fuel priming system in the background. Reduced max RPM to avoid speed warnings. Okay, so if we went to max RPM, which would be max power, we would go into a warning on the avionics screen. It would go into the red. They've actually pulled that back, so they pulled the max RPM down to avoid a speed warning. Tweaked engine damage model. You should know about this thing with damage. Added piston warm-up for initial 2-minute warm-up phase. Okay, so I did this in a previous video where I flew this aircraft by the book. If you fly this thing by the book, you have to let these engines warm up. You can't just start the engines up, taxi out, and fly. Yeah, well, in theory you can because it's a flight simulator, you're at home. But if you're flying this thing realistically, you're not going to do that. In the real aircraft, you do not do that. You have to do a ECU test. Okay, and it's an automatic ECU test. You press one of the buttons, and it tests both ECUs across both engines, and the aircraft automatically revs its engines up, tests all the systems, and makes sure everything is honky-dory. You can't do this if your temperatures are in the yellow, or I think it's gearbox temperatures, gearbox oil maybe, is in the yellow. It has to be in the black or green, I can't remember without looking at the avionics now. But you have to now do this tweaked engine damage model. So we added piston warm-up for the initial 2-minute warm-up phase. So they're adding more stuff we have to do to fly this thing or start it properly. Starter performance reacts to system voltage. Okay, so one of the worst things you can do, or one of the biggest drains on any electrical system of any vehicle, doesn't have to be an aircraft, it can be any vehicle, is the startup. It's an immense amount of drain on a battery system. Now, if you just start the battery and you start your alternators up and you're playing with the avionics, but you haven't started the engines up, you're going to start draining the battery, and it's simulated, remember. So you're going to get to a low battery level, or a lowish level, and when you start the engine's not going to want to turn over because it hasn't got enough jungle juice to start up. So now we move into the other section. So now we have wing flex simulation. Frequency and amplitude will differ depending on aircraft weight and fuel load in the wings. Obviously, like I said earlier even, we have fuel tanks across the aircraft, and there is fuel tanks in the wings. So if you're carrying quite a bit of weight in the wings, I dare say the wings won't flex that much, I would say. But if they are light, or they're not carrying any fuel in the wings, then these things are going to flex and move to their heart's degree, which is obviously, again, it's adding realism to the aircraft. AC now spawns with empty auxiliary tanks and 20 gallons in the mains. Okay, so this is not an AC as in air conditioning, although I could love some air conditioning right about now. This is the aircraft, so it now spawns with empty auxiliary tanks and 20 gallons in the main tanks. Now, obviously, we can change the fuel levels of the aircraft on the fly. I can't remember what I use as a program. It's part of Orbx Direct flow something or other, I think it is. If I press that, yeah, it's this thing here. I can change my weights and balances. It links to the Microsoft page or the aircraft's normal pages for weights and whatnot. But obviously, like I say, we now have a different default setup for fuel. Fuel flow AVAR now shows values, and G1000 FOD will now work. Okay, now I think this is something to do with what I was playing with earlier. That sounds wrong, but when I was on the avionics screen, there is a fuel system, and you have to tell the aircraft what fuel it's got in it. So it now works with the values of the fuel in the aircraft, I think, if I remember correctly. Passenger and payloads are now state saved. Now, this is a thing that a flight simulator aircraft, a lot of them do, state saving for switches. Well, now we've got state saving for passenger and payloads. I like to fly the aircraft just as me, because let's be honest, no one's going to be brave enough to sit in an aircraft that I'm flying. But now if I put a passenger in there, I think if I turn the flight sim off, come back on the flight sim, same aircraft, that same passenger is going to be there. That's what I understand it as. Various bug fixes. We have a corrected style of EIS. No idea what EIS stands for. Haven't a clue. Advisory colour warnings to EIS gauge. Again, not a foggiest. Added radio frequency identifier. Added checklists with correct typos. So they corrected some typos they had. We have added toggle for pilot's visibility. Okay, I'm fairly certain. You know, I mean, I haven't got my TrackIR connected up yet, but short of the fact I've got the canopy open and can't see much in front of me, I think that's quite good visibility as it is. Let's go back out. Right, so we're on custom engine page. Okay, so we have custom fuel totalizer, colour warnings, and reaction to sensor failures. Again, making this aircraft more realistic. Quick settings for engine damage, state saving failures, and realistic parking brake in the EIS menu. I've got to find out where this EIS menu is. Find out what it is first of all. Right, sound we have even added turbo whistle. Remember, these are turbocharged engines, so now they're going to whistle at some point. I don't know if they're going to whistle loudly, but they are going to whistle. Various fixes to the sound. It doesn't say what the fixes are. Okay, so we have failures. We have over 190 failures, all of which are state saved. I bet I can fail all 190 items in one flight. Right, we have 3 modes. Norm, 5% chance per hour. High, 100% even chance per hour. Or chaos, 1 failure every 30 seconds. Only active above 30 knots. Okay, so this is just making the aircraft. I mean, you're not going to fly an aircraft that has a 1 failure every 30 seconds, because I guarantee you that's going to be one heck of a short flight. We have an emergency reset in case of G1000 failure, electric and engine masters off, and hold double ECU test button for 10 seconds until short beep. Okay, so we've got emergency resets and all that kind of stuff. Right, so now into the last part of this. Hooray! I told you, it was a whop of an update. We have visual tweaks. Okay, so this was talking back to the original update they brought out. They did tweak a lot of the visuals in this aircraft, making it look more realistic, and then took that back. So we're back into this now. So we have added wing flex. We've already gone through that. New inboard wing walk area. Yeah, I'd say that's the wing walk area, and they have changed it. So these are basically grip strips when you stand on the wing. This is the strengthened part of the wing, obviously. You don't want to be standing on that bit part, but if you stand on this bit, you don't want to be sliding off. So that's those grip strips that have been put on. Added flap hinges. Might be those. I mean, that's obviously the mechanical part. Yes, possibly it's those. Mechanics. Yeah, again, it might be. I can't officially remember. Added aileron hinges. Again, that probably could be what I just pointed out, if I'm honest. But yeah, we've had a few more hinges added to this aircraft, apparently. Added landing gear door hinges. So landing gear doors, it's going to be very hard to actually see. Again, landing door hinges. I mean, it's a landing gear for crying out loud. Added airplane jack point. Would you jack it from the front, jack it from the back, or what? Or jack it from the... I have no idea. Again, it's not something we can do in Flight Simulator, but it's nice to have it, I suppose. It's realistic. Added gasolator panels. I didn't even know that was such a word. Yeah, I ain't got a clue. I haven't got a focus. Added fuel ventilation panels. Again, this could be something to do with the fuel tanks, wings, engines. It could be anything. I don't know the aircraft that well. I've only seen them at, airports. Added drain valves. Added gearbox oil panels. Added composite debris protection panel. Added more screws model wide. Okay, so screws, I'm not going to count them, but obviously things like that, that's a screw there. These things underneath here, they're screws, so now we have more of them. Again, makes it more realistic. Added visible turbocharger. Is that the front and the back? I have no idea. The turbochargers are connected to the engine, but, it's there somewhere. Apparently it's visible. Added bug splatter model wide. Okay, so we do have bug splatters. So it just adds a little more dirt to the aircraft. Makes it more realistic. Added visible push rods to TDI model. New MT propeller model. Okay, so we changed the propeller blades. If I can... Yeah, again, I can't remember exactly what the blades look like. I do know that the spinner cap here never had don't put your hand on it logos even. So I'm guessing that's obviously changed as well. Yeah, there you go. Next one, new propeller cone model. So we've actually changed the model for the whole entire cone. New fuel cap model. New wingtip model, new modelled flap fairings, new modelled aileron fairings, new canopy rubber seal. Boy, we're getting realistic. Smothered canopy lines, smothered LED housing, smooth even, not smothered. I was sounding wrong. Smooth landing gear. Door housing, smooth wing model, new rework textures model wide. Added debris nicks and dents model wide, added composite debris protection leading edge panel, added gearbox oil smudges, added new TKS material, don't know what that is, added leading edge debris, added jet fuel stains, added nacelle and panel cracking fatigue, added, I don't want fatigue in an aircraft, added propeller cone scratching even, I can't even read that properly, added propeller edge wear, modified the placards, high resolution light textures, new light model, new landing light model, new LED housing model, new light-based AO baking technique. What, this aircraft can bake cakes? I always thought it was amazing. Just gone up on my list if it does that. Increased UV size for engine mappings. Increased UV size for wing mappings. New LED glow emissive. I can't pronounce that. Fixed aileron fairing AO. Braking animation. New placards. I think we've already had that. Smooth panel lines. Added fuel colour panel for the TDI version, added fuel access panel, added fuel drain cutouts, added fuel panels under wings, and finally added alternate static functionality. I think there's a few things that actually just covered twice or 3 times in the actual update further up the list. But, right, what are we in now? 24 minutes. Let's see, that's been a big update. So, what's it all about? Is 1.1.1 a success? I don't know. I haven't flown the aircraft, I'm perfectly honest. That's going to come out in another video. I think I knew that cows were going to make a much more realistic, tweaked version of their Da-42, and it just shows you what cows are capable of doing. I know they're in development of another Diamond aircraft. I believe it to be the single-engine version, like the TwinStar. I can't remember what it's called. but off the top of my head. And if it's anything like this, this just shows you how realistic cows can be. It's a statement I never thought I would ever say, but how realistic cows can be when they come to developing the aircraft. It's fantastic, and this is the reason why I love the Da-42. So, I'm not going to prattle on much more about this. I am going to do another video of me trying to fly this aircraft, this new updated version, and we're going to have a look at some of the updates that I do find, or some of the new tweaks I see in the aircraft, in a future video. So if you have any questions or have any comments about the Da-42, please bang them below, and I will see you in a future Flight Simulator video very, very soon.